Welcome, trendsetters. We're Alicia and Nicole from Positive Image. As salon owners, hairstylists, and business coaches, we're here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of the beauty industry and discover the secrets to creating a thriving salon business. So grab your favorite beverage, cozy up in your salon chair, and let's dive into the world of hair, style, and entrepreneurship together.
This year has been, and I talk about 2023, has been such an extreme year for like our groceries have gone up incredibly, and everything just feels so much more expensive. Rents are through the roof within Toronto, Canada, and yet a lot of hairstylists and salons, their prices are low in consideration.
I think I don't know if you noticed this. I feel like I noticed a lot of salons, along with other types of businesses, changing their prices dramatically over the last few years, especially for shorter, smaller services that we decided costed less, but still took the same amount of time as other things.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, a lot of salons are feeling the pinch and the crunch of having to pay out more bills because their own expenses have gone up. Their staff, their quality of life has improved, so they want to get a raise as well, or make more money. And us as owners also, we need to make more money too. So that begs the question of, do you need to raise your prices? And how do you raise your prices?
Yeah, great question. What's the first parameter?
Well, I think like going back to basics and really looking at your budget would be a really good beginning. Like, are you losing money or are you making money right now? Or are you breaking even?
Yeah, so when we look at a budget, figuring out, are you being pinched? Do you absolutely need to, whether you like it or not? I think that's a whole nother part of it too, right? Where we have a lot of emotions around raising our prices, and that's what often damages our business, damages our profit potential in our business because we feel, well, I don't want to do that. I love my clients, but that's just like you're running a business.
And I think that's where a budget is such a good thing because it takes the emotion out. Like it is what it is. The having a budget is such a neutral thing where it just compares what expenses are going out, how much money are you bringing in, and where are you there? Are you a plus or minus? And how can you rectify that at the end of the day? Do you need to raise your prices? Do you need to do better or different marketing? Do you need to cut staff? Do you need to hire staff? So I know when I was kind of learning how to be a business owner, I remember hearing that when your books are about 80 to 100% full, that's when you need to raise your prices. And that for the longest time was what I did as an owner. So I would only go through and raise them every couple of years when because I was only like it was me and maybe one other person. I would go and raise them like $5 or $10 with really, not much of a theory. It's just, oh, I'm busy, time to raise it. I'm going to lose some clients or they're going to migrate over to my juniors. And that's going to open up the possibility and the opportunity for more clients to come in to my way. But I feel like that's not the best business way of doing it. I feel like that is really going by emotion.
Yeah. I feel like that's an individual way of looking at it. Like opportunity for your team to grow versus the business as a whole. And I think those, even though our prices are in the same category, I think we just need to be mindful of looking at those are two things, but then they do have your team as a whole, your average hourly need as a whole versus the individual stylist and when they should have earned a raise.
Right. So, what have you found to be effective in your business with raising prices?
I'm gonna backtrack there a little. And when I opened, and I think the whole reason why we started doing everything that we're doing is because there wasn't anyone to hold my hand and say, so this is how business works. I tried to be competitive or observe what other people posted their prices as and base pricing off of that, which makes absolutely no sense when you actually think about the numbers and a budget and your expenses, because somebody else's business is not your same business revenue or expenses. Or even like size, right? When we're thinking about our profit potential, that does incorporate how many chairs you have available to make profit off of. So if you're, a two-chair salon, that's going to be a very different expense as well as revenue opportunity than a 10-chair salon. So you have to take those things into account as well. For me, the biggest thing was sitting down and looking at the median, what I absolutely had to make as a salon per hour to be in that neutral line, not necessarily exceeding, excelling, not necessarily going into the red either. And then basing our prices out from that. And I found that's given us a much better balance. And then from there, there's been times where I will fluctuate, and I've done the annual inflation price increase across the board. And then there's other times, because we do have stylists at all different price levels, where we have quarterly one-on-ones to check on their metrics, and then they have goals and levels to check into to advance to. And there isn't like you have to be in this level for so many years, so many months. If you kick butt at it, you can excel really fast. If you're happy doing what you're doing, then you can just stay there, and that's totally fine. And so for me, I usually encourage people to bounce out of that and advance their career instead of always changing our prices across the board every year.
So do you have a salon-wide increase, or do you have it more as an individual increase?
Basically, now at this point, we have everything, individual levels are set. And so we don't raise those. We promote an individual stylist throughout that. And then my goal as the salon is to have people in all the different levels.
And wouldn't it be amazing to, like, from Tuesday to Friday or even Tuesday to Thursday, that the salon meets kind of its weekly needs, and then the Friday and the Saturday is just like that's where the profit is?
That's why I like the median thing.
Yeah. Interesting thing knowing the medium thing, because I don't think a lot of owners or salons know what their hourly like income needs to be in order to break even. And I think that's just such an amazing metric to know. And if anybody does need to know that, then we actually have that information. So please reach out to either one of us, and we can certainly direct you to that juicy piece of information.
What do you do?
Yeah, so for myself or for my shop, we raise it right now, we raise it once a year, and we just raise it by like $2 every single year. And so that way it becomes predictable. Our
Mm-hmm.
clients are fully aware. Some years I'll raise both the color and the cut price. Sometimes I'll just raise the cut price, or sometimes I'll just raise the color price, depending on what kind of whether we need a bigger increase or not based on our budget. And that makes a big help for the business. In the past, I've done a few different things. I've done a percentage increase, so like 3% across the board, 5% across the board. I know coming back from COVID, I think a lot of businesses had a huge increase as well. But I feel like just for, again, the predictability that having it once a year is just such a good thing. And I tend to do it around August, September. And that way coming into,
I think that's a great time of year.
Yeah, and going right into like the holiday season, it kind of helps have a little bit more impact for the holiday season, and especially with my staff because they're commission based, it gives them a nice bonus and their check for the end of the years too, rather than after January where things are slow, March, April, when I think a lot of people tend to raise their prices then, that sometimes is harder to get that traffic in the door as well.
I agree with that idea. And I even think of a lot of people like to do it end of October, beginning of November, which is also fine and still better than January, February. But I feel like just having those couple extra months, you're really giving your clientele a bit more preparation, as well as your team time to remember what their new prices are before the busy holiday season, where you're just like, wait, oh, damn it. I charged the wrong price because I forgot that we changed the prices and like I'm back to back all day. So like, you know?
And that's where I think like we really need to use our salon systems. Like
Yeah.
the POS system. I know the one I use, it's great. I can just change it across the board. And in order to go back to the old price, you actually have to go and find what the old price is and then input it. So it's a lot of work to go backwards. Do you tend to go more percentage or do you go more dollar amount when you raise?
If I'm gonna do, say, an inflation raise, which for me would be the reason to do a raise in prices across the board, I'm gonna go percentage wise. And I'm gonna check online, which is available all the time, what do you call it, Canadian percentage interest rate inflation.
Inflation
All
rate.
of my words are wrong. Nicole, help me out here.
So the Canadian inflation rate is what you want to check. And I've just pulled up a quick website called statistica.com. It gives us about an average of about 2.5% to 3%. But in 2022, it was a huge 6.8% increase in inflation, which is huge considering the year before that, or even 2020 was 0.72. Now I know there was a pandemic going on, so they're not going to raise. But it seems to have leveled out, but it was like from having no income, minimal expenses because we weren't open, to all of a sudden a 6.8 increase in food in our own costs. Like we have to raise the prices from what I can see. And you can take a look yourself, viewers, by just writing in statistic or inflation rates in whatever country you're in, and it will tell you where you're going through. But that's sometimes a really good way to raise your prices. And if you're going to go by inflation, then you would want to do it every single year because it shows you that if you had 1 year of not raising your rates, a year or two later, you're going to have to raise it by 6 or 7%. And that's a huge hit to the client. And that might make them not want to come back rather than doing a 2 or 3% raise every single year.
100%. I want to add to that. Yes, 2 to 3% average is good, a good rule of thumb. Definitely look because, like you said, some years are way more. Some years aren't necessarily. Keep in mind, though, that if you're doing that, whether you're an individual or a salon as a whole, when you're raising prices for inflation, you're not giving yourself a raise. There is no raise that happens there. You're only meeting inflation and staying at the same value, so to speak, of your dollar. So if you are in a position where it is appropriate for you to also give yourself a raise, I would keep that in mind and do that at the same time.
That's a really good point.
I would also personally, I encourage people, unless of course, I think this is the only time I really do it is when I have someone new that starts at the salon. And so they bump up really fast, is to not change your prices a lot. Like stick to only 1 to 2 times a year if you're going to do it, because if your client's coming in and every single visit, it's a new price, they're going to get frustrated with that.
So what I've done in the past with some of my bigger increases is my long-term clients who have been with me for a long time and they may have had an increase. I leave them to be where it is, especially if I'm going to do like a huge one. And then my new clients, I've given them the new. So if I've raised my prices from $80 for an hour haircut up to $100 because that's my value or even more, the clients who have been with me originally, I'll let them know that this is what I am raising my prices to, but right now it's going to be this, and we will get it. It will go to this price, but just kind of giving them a heads up. And viewers can't see her, but Alicia is making faces at me. So I can tell that she does not agree with that opinion.
It's not that I don't agree. I'm happy you explained that because at first I thought you were saying that you were just grandfathering their prices. And I was like, so you're not making any money.
No, no.
I'm 100% okay, whether it's the nice girl thing to do or not. I think it's a nice, polite customer service thing to do. And there's times when it may not be appropriate or necessary to do, but I think it's a great practice to have know that your prices are changing, have the next visit with your client and say, so excited, we're having a change, whatever your verbiage is on it. Just so you know, for your next visit, the price will be this. That way you have a heads up and you can budget accordingly. If you need to work on a different budget, I'm happy to do that, whether you're still seeing me and we're doing a different thing, or you're seeing one of my team, or you're bouncing back and forth. That way you have those moments and your client actually feels again cared for. And that's what creates the trust and loyalty.
Especially when it's a large amount too. And I think you touched on actually something that's a really important topic as well within the price increase is how do we let our clients know that we're going to be increasing our prices? So I know there's a
Mm-hmm.
few different forms of modalities of doing it, and I would love viewers to chime in on this as well. We'd love to know if you have a unique way or a different way. For me, we post a sign in the salon saying our prices increased. That way the client can read it and it can make the conversation, especially with my staff, less awkward. I've seen some people putting social media posts out there. What do you guys do?
I do it in my newsletter. When we do a salon wide, I do have a newsletter and then a sign in the salon. If it's individual, I'll put it in the newsletter and then we'll have a discussion, the stylist and I, of if they need help with verbiage of letting their client know that they're getting a promotion and this time it'll be the old price, but next time it'll be the new price. And again, that same verbiage of like, let's work together. So grateful for your support, your love. Thank you for being my client. All those good things. Yeah. I don't love the social media post.
And I wonder if anybody has like just does it and they don't tell people. Like they just try and sneak it in too. So I'm always curious about that. Like if they just kind of go, okay, well, today's appointment is blah blah.
Honestly, if you're doing a consistent like $2 every year, I feel like that's not really something to talk about. I do enjoy transparency. At the same time, I also appreciate the like, other people don't know tell us the price changes of things. However, if you go to the grocery store and it's different, you can still choose not to buy that.
So do you have your prices written in your salon where it's visual, they can see it when they walk in the store?
I have a board and it has a range.
Right.
So not really.
We have nothing.
If you go on our website, each stylist's page has their starting rates
Right.
for the type of service.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of businesses have that, but not a lot of salons have like a menu or something advertised as to what their prices are. I did when I first opened, and I loved having that.
Mhm.
I actually had it displayed in the window. But now that I have 4 levels of stylists, my menu becomes like
Complicated.
a landscape document, and it just is way too busy and way too crazy. I think QR codes might be a really interesting, like on the
Hmm.
waiting area, just have like the person's name and picture and just scan for their pricing or something.
Ooh, that is a very cool, fun idea.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with QR codes.
I'm always envious of the salons that just have one price for everyone. Like every stylist in the salon is the same price for everyone. I'm like, wow. So once upon a time when we only had three stylists, I did have the prices for things set out. My problem now is that we've gone to hourly. And though that does simplify things in one way, it actually complicates things in another way because not all of us take the same amount of time to do each service. So it's not a standard, this stylist at this level is this price for this service. On top of, I think the additional part of just the hair industry now is like our services are so much more complex than a partial and a root touch.
Yep.
It's not just that anymore. It's way more complex. So like to just have the price, it's I think it is a bit more of a challenge. It's a goal for sure.
It's just a really hard conversation to have when somebody walks in going, how much for a haircut? And it's like, well, it's all based on time and it's based on stylist and it could range from this price all the way up to this price. And the client's just like, holy crap, I can't handle this. I'm just going to go to the next salon. So as being another hourly one too, it we've had to get creative with how we explain to the client so they just don't leave with scared running.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've definitely had people pop in or email us just saying, I'm overwhelmed. I don't actually know what to book.
And I love one thing that you've been doing recently on your social media, and
Mm,
my salon is totally stealing this, is that you're
that's fine.
going through and breaking down what to charge or how to book your service and even who to book with. And I think that is just such a brilliant idea because it describes your prices, describes what the service looks like. And then even if you get into, you can book with our junior that is, from this experience to this experience. And so now people have a way of watching. Okay. And you could even link back to this on your website too, is for a better understanding of your partial highlights or what's involved in a partial highlights. Watch this video and it'll bring you to their Instagram. They might follow you, and then all of a sudden now you're generating more, or you're potentially even booking them in for a toner or a treatment that they may not even know, been aware that that was an option on your salon. So kudos to you for coming up with that because it's been brilliant.
Thank you. I literally, it's come because I've had people being like, I don't know what to do.
I think even that too, doing the price increase and having it as like even an owner announcement in that way might be better than just that verbiage one, because that becomes a bit more personalized than this like, dear client, things are expensive, so you're going to be charged more.
Verbiage is a whole nother beast. If I ever try to, whether it's a newsletter or a signage in salon, I try not to get whiny, so to speak, complain about all the things I gotta pay for. I try to keep it short and sweet. In the past, when I've done bigger raises, I try to have something new that we're offering, just so that clients feel like they're still getting a bit more, because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, like whether people understand inflation or not, or you deserving a raise. It's they're still thinking about themselves, and they're not necessarily getting a different service, but now they're paying more.
Right.
Sounds really
Yeah.
exciting to them. They don't care that you have bills at the end of the
No,
day, you know?
no, they don't. Just cut my hair.
Yeah.
So I think, just to kind of recap what we've talked about, we've really touched base on like what's the right time, whether it's once a year or every few years. And I think look, you really need to look at your own business and figure out what the right time is. Look at your budget, do a budget, and really, take a look at those numbers because that's going to be the most telling way of like, do I increase and how much do I need to increase for? Be aware that inflation doesn't mean that you're getting a raise. So I think that is a stellar observation and 2 cents put in there. And then, look at either raising it by dollar or raising it by a percentage. And just again, you need to figure that out within your salon and your budget and let the client know. Be transparent. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Take this knowledge and just keep developing yourself. And hey, we want to hear from you too. Join the conversation by using our hashtag #PositiveImagePodcast. Share your thoughts, questions, and success stories. Who knows? We might just feature you on an upcoming episode. But don't keep us a secret. Tag your friends too. And want to keep learning? Check out our show notes. Find us on Instagram at hello.positiveimage and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode filled with inspiration and insights.